What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Well, it's been 24 hours since the University of Miami has let go of offensive coordinator, much criticized offensive coordinator Josh Gattis. We've all had a chance to kind of calm down. And you know what? I wish the guy the best. I'm sure he's going to be fine. I'm sure he's going to land a good coaching gig somewhere. If what Miami likely had to pay for the buyout and all that stuff is any indication, I think he's going to be just fine. So I'm not too worried about the guy. It's a shame it didn't work out. I mean, he was a Broyles Award winner last year. I think we all wanted it to work out on paper. It looked amazing, but I think this proves that fit is more important than anything when it comes to a coach, a quarterback, and a play caller. It has to fit right. And on top of being a good play caller and being innovative, it has to fit right. So Josh Gattis is gone. The question is, who's next? So I've gone down a list of potential candidates. I know there's been a lot of other videos out there, so I don't know if mine's going to be any different, but I just want to give you my opinions on who's available. Before I do that, please remember, go down, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. All the buttons, they all help. The more you press, the better. Helps with the algorithm. I don't know what that means. I guess it makes me more visible, but please do all that. I'm close to that 2,000 sub mark. I'm like right there. So if you can help me get that little boost, that would be much appreciated. Now, no matter the hire, I think the University of Miami football program is heading in the right direction. That leadership at the top, I know I've said this before, Radakovich, you got obviously a school president that wants athletics to succeed rather than just saying it. I think he honestly does want it. And then you got Alonzo Highsmith backing Mario Cristobal. So the moves at the top have been made, the necessary moves. It takes time for that to trickle down to the football field. But I think it will here, in the next couple of years, you will see that. But that being said, I think we are heading in the right direction. I think Mario Cristobal is going to, at the very least, no matter this coordinator hire, going to bring this program back to respectability. He's going to bring back that tough, hard-nosed style of football. We're going to run the ball better. We're going to have a better offensive line, better in the trenches, more fundamentally sound defense, hopefully. So he's going to at least get us back to good, to respectable, to solid. But what's going to bring us back to the glory days, back to greatness, is we got to adapt to what the modern game has become. He essentially has to do what Nick Saban did years ago when he switched from playing murder ball and just beating everybody down with his running game, which on any given night, Nick Saban could still do. He's got the line. He's got the running backs. He could do that if he wants. But he's adapted to the fact that you got to be able to win sometimes through the air. And in the ACC especially, I mean, if we can get that passing game going, combine what Mario wants to do on the ground with what maybe Rhett Lashley was able to do that 1 year with De'Ara King and what he was able to do 6 games with Tyler Van Dyke. If you can combine those two things into one team, we're in great shape. So will Mario be able to, or will he be willing to adapt? I'd like to believe he would. I mean, we were willing to adapt a little bit to what TVD wanted to do. It is a little concerning. It took so many weeks to do that, but I digress. Hopefully Mario learned from that. And hopefully he gets a guy in here that's not only a fit for the program, but a guy that can, and I think this is a necessary quality for offensive coordinators nowadays. You need to be able to scheme guys open. What do I mean by that? Look at Sean McVay's offense. Look at Coach Mike McDaniel from the Dolphins. Look at Kyle Shanahan from, the 49ers. He's on the verge of going to the Super Bowl for the second time in a few years. So what do all those guys have in common? They understand the concept of scheming guys open. Hell, even Andy Reid, who's been coaching for like 8 million years and, won a ton of playoff games, even he understands the importance of scheming players open. Look what he's done without Tyreek Hill on his team. So I think you get it. No matter the personnel, obviously you need better talent, which we are addressing right now. But if you combine better talent, the Jimmies and the Joes with the X's and the O's, you get both those things together, now you have a championship contender. And that's what we're trying to get back to. Now, honestly, I think Mario Cristobal has has already narrowed down his search to probably to his finalists. He probably has someone already in mind, like option A, option B, option C kind of thing. So I don't think a hire has been made behind closed doors just yet, but I think they're very close. I think that's going to be made very soon. Alex Dono on his show and Locked On Canes talked about Luke Mocha, that 2024 quarterback prospect that kind of let the cat out of the bag and said, well, I talked to Mario and he said he's going to make a decision in the next week or so. Now, Mario's not dumb. Could he have said that on purpose to, kind of, throw people off the scent? I don't know. I don't see why he wouldn't want to make a hire as soon as possible. Obviously, you want to make the right one, but I think he's been thinking about this for a while now. I think the coach Gattis firing, letting him go, I think that has been in the works for a while. So this has been planned, I think, for weeks now. So that being said, let's go down some of the list of candidates. I'm going to eliminate first a few of the unrealistic ones that people want to hang on to. Number one, of course, Ken Dorsey. Please stop it. He's not coming. He's getting paid a lot of money in the NFL. He's going to be a head coach in the NFL very soon, I think. Runs a good offense there. He ain't coming. Not anytime soon. So next, some people even mentioned Kellen Moore from the Cowboys. Same thing. He's a young up-and-comer in the NFL, making lots of money on a Cowboy team that actually won a playoff game for once, with an average quarterback, in my opinion. So I don't think he's going anywhere either. I mean, even their defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, said he's not going anywhere. They think they're very close. So take that how you want to take it. I don't think that guy's going anywhere either. So let's go to the more realistic ones. I'm going to start with Dan Mullen. You guys all heard the report that he may or may not have been in Coral Gables yesterday. Take that how you want to take it. If he was, I'm sure he was kicking the tires. I'm sure he was talking to some people. Dan Mullen, let's run down his resume. Obviously, a brilliant offensive mind. He's a guy that on paper I would hire in a heartbeat. But the more I read into it, the more I looked at it, the more I have a couple of hesitations. Number one, the guy hasn't coached for a couple of years now. He's got his cushy ESPN gig, which, to me, I see him on there. He's a great analyst. And I see him on there. He seems very happy. I think he's enjoying the break. He's probably enjoying the time with his family. So will he have that hunger? Will he have that fire burning in him to come back and coach and maybe help us win a national championship? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. He's still only 51 years old, I think is what I checked, 51 years old. He's still a pretty young guy for a coach. He's younger than Coach Cristobal, actually. So, that fire might still be there. We'll see. I don't know. Runs a very balanced attack. So check that box off. He can, his offenses at Florida could run the ball. They could throw the ball. I'm talking the more successful offenses. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. Their quarterbacks were always mobile. They always had that Percy Harvin, Kadarius Toney type guy that can be like a Swiss Army knife. We have that guy, in my opinion, in Brashard Smith and maybe Ray Joseph. So, personnel-wise, it could fit. TBD, he's not super mobile. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he's not a statue either. He could pick up a first down with his legs here and there. We saw it in that run in 2021. He can run a little bit. He's a decent athlete for being, a big, this big 6'4", 220-pound rocket arm quarterback. Usually those guys aren't the most athletic. He's fairly decent at running the football. So could it be a fit X's and O's wise? Absolutely. But those other variables, I think, are something to take into account. And also, of course, the elephant in the room, he doesn't like to recruit. It's not his favorite thing. I think a guy like Dan Mullen can bring in quarterback interest from recruits on his name alone. And you bring in a guy like Mario with his magic loafers to come in and close the deal. You can make it work, I think. And of course, as a quarterback coach, I mean, there's few guys out there that are better. So it might not be the best fit as far as the intangibles on paper. I think it's an awesome fit. So I'm kind of 50-50 on Dan Mullen. You would have to absolutely back up the Brinks truck for that guy, man. You would absolutely have to pay the man because, as was reported a couple of days ago, he turned down the Alabama offensive coordinator job. So, I don't see a lot of likelihood there. So, that's Dan Mullen. So let's move on to one that I really like. Probably one of my two dream hires. I'll tell you who the other one is now, but the first one is Scott Frost. Let's run down his resume. Obviously, had major success at UCF. Took the job for the 2016 season, took him from 0-12 to a bowl team, and then took him from a bowl team to 11-0, 12-0, undefeated, mythical national champions, whatever. They still had a fantastic season. They beat the guys that were in front of them. They beat, in my opinion, a battered Auburn team, but hey, they had a ton of injuries, whatever, but whatever. They beat Auburn on the big stage. And he had a tremendous success at UCF, parlayed that into a head coaching job at his alma mater, Nebraska. That was a that was a dumpster fire, but we saw it with Charlie Strong. If you go somewhere that the program is maybe not in great shape, or maybe it's not the right fit, there's some destinations where head coaches' careers kind of go to die a little bit. Texas has been, the last 10 years or so, one of those. And Nebraska has been one of those. So I think pre-Nebraska, he had a ton of success at UCF, scoring a lot of points per game. I think it was like 48, 46 points per game, something like that. It was crazy. He had a great offense, is my point. And, he did it with, I think, a good quarterback for the group of five, but it wasn't like an NFL, like future Pro Bowler he was using. He had to coach. He had to coach up what he had. And then before that, at Oregon, he spent years at Oregon, starting as the wide receiver coach under Willie Taggart, and then moved over into that that QB coach, offensive coordinator role from 2013 to 2015. Helped mentor Marcus Mariota. I think you remember him. He was all right. He was pretty good at the college level. Mentored Marcus Mariota, ran a very high-powered offense that you were confident they were going to score on every drive. That's eventually what I want to get to with this team. But had a ton of success at Oregon as the offensive coordinator. They went to the first college football playoff back in 2014. Beat up on a great FSU team. I remember that game very, very clearly in the Rose Bowl. So Scott Frost, 48 years old. I think after being fired from Nebraska, after being fired from his alma mater, which I'm sure it's like a little extra dig in there. I'm sure it hurts for him. And I'm sure Scott Frost really wants a do-over. He wants to kind of erase that from his memory. He's got a chip on his shoulder right now, and he's got something to prove. I think he's at the perfect time in his career to kind of reinvent himself a little bit, get back. And if we pay him enough, the Miami job might be interesting enough. Maybe he uses this as a springboard to kind of get back into the coaching ranks. On paper, and with those, those intangibles, those variables, I think Scott Frost, if they're willing to throw the money down, which this school over the past 12 months has shown they're willing to throw the money down, I think Scott Frost would be an excellent fit here, and I think he'd do awesome. Again, this is assuming Mario is willing to evolve and adapt to the college game. All right, so that's Scott Frost. Next, a guy who I think is the safe pick. He would be my plan C, if you will. I wouldn't be super thrilled if we hired him. I wouldn't be totally upset either. It could work. I'm talking about Marcus Arroyo. Marcus Arroyo had a 7-23 or a 7-26 record, something like that, at UNLV as a head coach for 3 years. Didn't, obviously that's not great, but he took over a dumpster fire of a program. That was one of those teams that was going 1-11, 0-12, every year. It was kind of like when Mario took over FIU all those years ago. And he got him to a fairly somewhat respectable 5-7 season. I thought UNLV fired him a little too soon because he had him trending in the right direction. And, he didn't exactly have elite talent at quarterback. He kind of worked with what he had. I thought he did a good job as a quarterback coach over there. Decent job as a play caller. What I'm a little nervous about is his scheme kind of gives me Dan Enos vibes. Not so much the results of what Dan Enos had in Miami, because that was a disaster, but kind of what Dan Enos wanted to run with those outside zone, type of run, the split zones, the, that sort of thing. A lot of pistol, a lot of, play action, things like that. But it wasn't a lot of like super fancy exotic route trees that are, the kind of stuff that, again, is going to scheme a wide receiver or a tight end just butt naked wide open in the middle of the field. I want to see more of that. Some rub routes, some mesh, things like that. What you see is a lot of, what was good back in, back 10 years ago, maybe. But I think with the personnel we're bringing in, talent wise, it could work. Again, if you run the ball consistently, running the ball is one of those things where it doesn't matter if you know where it is, where it's coming. If you just got a dominant line and you're better than the other team, you're going to run the ball down their throats. It is what it is. Sometimes that's just how it works. But scheme is important, and to me, this is my plan C. He did, have some experience with Mario. With that staff, they do have a great relationship, I'm sure. They have experience coaching with each other. Marcus Arroyo's still young, so he's willing to put in the hours and put in the work on the recruiting trail. And, had a hand in mentoring and developing Justin Herbert. That guy's not bad either. So, again, I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't exactly love it either. All right. Next, Jason Candle. That's a name that's been coming up a lot. According to reports, it seems like Miami did offer him the job last year, and it didn't work out. It sounds like he turned it down. And whether or not he turned it down because he didn't want the job or because of his status with Toledo, who knows? But Jason Candle's a guy that he's been with Toledo since 2009. I think he started like as a tight ends coach and worked his way up the ranks all the way to head coach. We all remember that game back in 2017 that they almost beat us. I think they went like 11-2 that year. One of their only losses was to us at Hard Rock Stadium. I was at that game. It was a fun game to watch. Being down by 7 at the half wasn't fun, but you saw, again, scheming guys open, innovative route trees. You saw a very modern offense. Man, I'm trying to remember the quarterback's name. It was like Woodside, like Danny Woodside, something like that. He had a quarterback that he coached up very well. So, yeah, Candle on paper, again, would be another great one. But, it seems like, I think I read, or I might have heard on Donald's show, on one of these shows, that he signed an extension. So the likelihood there is very slim to none. So great on paper, but unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. Next. Here's one that's been thrown around. Now we're looking at the younger candidates, guys like in their early 30s, guys that were playing quarterback like yesterday. Clint Trickett. That name might sound familiar. He was a former FSU quarterback, 31 years old. He is the current offensive coordinator at Marshall. They did have a few big wins this year. That big win in South Bend against Notre Dame, we all remember that. So interesting option, but it wouldn't be at the top of my list, and I'm going to tell you why. Just on the initial look at their stats. Offensively, Marshall, this is when Clint was, I want to say he was an assistant, wide receiver, quarterback coach, something like that. He wasn't calling plays yet. Back in 2021, Marshall averaged 33 points a game. Solid, very respectable. Last year, 24 points a game. That's quite a drop-off. Not crazy about that. So because of that, if we want to narrow down this search quickly, Clint Trickett is out for now. Maybe down the road he's an option, but not right now. Here is, well, you know what? I'm going to save my other dream hire for the end. Major Applewhite, a name that's always thrown around as a potential offensive coordinator candidate for any team looking for one. Very pass heavy. So right off the bat, I don't think he's going to be a fit. Mario likes to run the ball. I don't think just based on what I've seen historically in Major Applewhite's offenses, it is very, very pass heavy. They don't run the ball a lot. So, there was some success there in 2018 with De'Ara King as a quarterback. But again, that is De'Ara King. I think De'Ara King, while not 6'5", 220 and a first-round prospect, I think De'Ara King, for being a 5'11 dude, was special. Great leader, great playmaker. And I think he benefited from that. Over the years, he's been up and down offensively. Major Applewhite has had some bad losses that have led to firings. And he went from, also something that's a little concerning, he went from an analyst at Alabama to taking a head coaching job at South Alabama. I don't know why he decided to take that job. I thought he could have held out for something better. By all accounts, he's doing well over there. But I don't know. That's something I feel like he's been trending downward the last 5 to 10 years or so. So for that, Major Applewhite, out. James Coley, not as an offensive coordinator. I think that would be a very underwhelming hire. Again, that would be if Marcus Arroyo's plan C, James Coley would be plan D. Wouldn't be too upset, but still, I think we could do so much better. Now, as a recruiter, he's phenomenal. Great, deep South Florida ties. Went to, I want to say it was Miami High down here. So he's always had great South Florida ties. I want to say he was responsible for getting a big name like Stacy Coley to commit back in the 2013 class when we went a few years without landing a big time wide receiver. So that's something we need. He's currently coaching the wide receivers at Texas A&M, not getting paid a lot. We can buy him out and bring him here, I think, in a heartbeat. And honestly, I see that happening. I think James Coley will be the wide receiver coach at Miami very soon. And probably, if they're going to make the decision, probably in the next week or so. If you want to land the JoJo Traders of the world, bring in a guy like James Coley to coach the wide receivers. He's going to murder it on the trail. Offensive coordinator, though, I think we can do better. Last but not least, in addition to Scott Frost, this is my other dream hire. This is 1B and Scott Frost is 1A. Tommy Rees. He has been either the quarterback coach, position coach, or offensive coordinator from 2017 to now, 2022. So he's put in a solid 5 years. Now, he's with a good program. Marcus Freeman did kind of turn things around. Middle of the season, they got off to a rocky start. Turned things around. They started looking like the Notre Dame of the year before, or of years past under Brian Kelly. And you can't blame him. Brian Kelly all of a sudden ups and leaves. You bring in Marcus Freeman, who's the defensive coordinator, but by all accounts, the players love him. You saw that video when he announced the team he got hired. They all hugged him and everything. Obviously, the players love playing for him. But when you have such a unexpected change like that, where your leadership is gone and you have to make it work, they eventually turned it around and made it work and ended up having a decent year. Looking at the numbers over the last 3 seasons, where Tommy Rees has been the play caller, 2020, 2021, 2022. 33 points per game, 35 points per game, and 31 points per game. And guess what? He did it without a first-round prospect at quarterback. He did it with guys like Ian Book, with Drew Pine, guys that might be successful later on, but, there's no Justin Herberts in there. There's no Marcus Mariota. These are guys that I'm sure he had to coach up. The numbers are there. The track record is there. He's 30 years old. The only thing holding me back on saying that I'm confident we can land him, is the fact that he'd be taking a risk. He's already with a good program. Why all of a sudden would he make kind of a lateral move to come over here to a program with a brand that's trying to get back to glory, to basically take the same position with a struggling program? Aside from money, I don't know, but maybe he'd want a new challenge. But if he wants that new challenge and he wants to come here and maybe use this as a springboard for a head coaching job, in the next couple of years, Tommy Rees is my pick. The more I think about it, the more I like it. So that's it, guys. Tommy Rees or Scott Frost. Those are my top two candidates for the job right now. I hope a decision is made soon. I hope it's a home run, but we won't know if it's a home run until the season starts and we're scoring 35 points per game, or we're scoring 19 points per game again. So we will see what happens. I will be dropping more content soon. I'll probably be doing a live, in the next couple of days. Maybe I'll do one tomorrow. I haven't decided yet, but I will be dropping more videos soon. Anyways, guys, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. It's all about that. Go Canes.